Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Hickey. I'm the head of partnerships at TurnKey Lender. TurnKey Lender is a true end-to-end loan origination service platform. We handle everything from the initial lending process all the way through to disbursements. We support commercial and consumer lending with our traditional lenders, and the same platform allows for embedded financing options for our non-traditional lenders as well. We're fortunate to be speaking with Michelle Katics today. Michelle is the founder and CEO of BankersLab. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to catch up again. And I know it's rather late for you because you're traveling around the world, halfway around the world. So thank you very much for being with us today. Just as a brief introduction for BankersLab in the audience, BankersLab, which is a turnkey lender partner, is a global leader in lending simulation. They have now launched their new digital banking toolkit, and we're fortunate to have Michelle here to explain a little bit more about how BankersLab is driving innovation in fintech. Michelle, thanks again for being here. Please share with us the new product line. This sounds very, very exciting, and we're looking forward to sharing this with the audience.
Yeah, happy to announce to you guys today our digital lending toolkit. The simulation has been around for a long time, 10 years, and we've used it for many things, but now it's driving innovation. And here's what we're doing. In the financial sector, we have all these new tools and data. And, thanks to you guys over at TurnKey Lender, with the flip of a switch, I can turn on an API, get all this new data, et cetera, cloud computing. So we have all these new capabilities and data. And when we looked at it, Kevin, it was like people suddenly got these superpowers. So, you're a really strong guy, but now you suddenly have extra strength. You can automate things. You can have X-ray vision into data because you can see transaction data about your customers. And the question is, what do you do with that superpower? And, cue up the comical scene from a superhero movie where, you got a big, strong guy who's a superhero. And suddenly he's got his new power ring or whatever he has. And he tries to use it and he goes flying up in the air and falls down on his behind or whatever, because he just doesn't know how to harness the power of the superpower. So that's kind of like some of the movie that we're seeing in the industry right now, where you see all these new superpowers, but people are like, whoa, what do I do? I have my jetpack and I just shot myself right into the ceiling in my head. So what we're here to do is help people figure out how to do that in a safe environment without hitting your head on the ceiling when you use your new jetpack. So for example, even seasoned lenders are really trying to figure out how to use transaction data. In the TurnKey Lender platform, I can flip a switch and feed in all this great transaction data or alternative data scores or a second chance score. But might not really be sure how to integrate that into how I typically think of a lending process. And, if you think of just all the new APIs and superpowers just in the TurnKey Lender platform alone. So that's what we're here to do. So whether you call it test and learn or a sandbox, a try before you buy, it's really empowering. And for clients and tech providers, it's a way to accelerate that adoption.
Well, that's fantastic. And, from what I've gathered with this information, it's something that could be extremely beneficial to the companies when they're planning project rollouts or upgrades and things of that nature, because it helps reset expectations and setting the right expectations.
Well, that's right. It's about expectation, and it's also about just problem solving. So, Kevin, at TurnKey, you're working with clients, where the rubber really hits the road. What kind of challenges are you guys seeing out there in the field in terms of clients trying to integrate all these new superpowers?
Yeah, so today, many of the clients approach us about increasing the efficiencies of their clients' lending journey. They turn to TurnKey Lender for assistance in helping accelerate that process, because it's a very comprehensive platform, right, with many ways in which they can actually grow and scale their business.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's really what we're after. We're after helping people just figure out how to use them quickly, and make use of them very effectively.
Yes. Yeah. So when you look at the various capabilities and the features that we have in our platform, it's a platform that addresses all the lending needs, right? It was built to focus on lending as a whole, not only to address the immediate need, but also be able to provide scalability with the business. Providing a solution that only addresses the lending process, but also allows for integration with other products is also extremely important, because every client environment you walk into is unique in its own way, right?
Absolutely.
And being able to have that certain dynamic with a platform makes it much easier for clients to, one, make a decision and really look to something that's going to help them address immediate challenges, and then also continue with the scalability. Our API integration capabilities are easily configurable and very seamless. This affords us the ability to address the diversity in the marketplace, thus allowing our clients to overcome many of these challenges. When we partner with companies like BankersLab, this allows us to help clients evolve their business much more effectively.
Great.
And then when you look at the combination of what BankersLab offers and what TurnKey Lender provides, this digital banking toolkit is very, very interesting, right? And this is something I think many people should really start taking a look at. Can you please explain a little bit more? It's hard to imagine since it's not yet commonplace, right? So
it's not. And, it's funny, we've used different terms for this because people can't always imagine it. We always called it, a simulation, but people might not know what that really means. We've called it a sandbox. We call it your virtual lending world. Some people call it a digital twin, but you're basically in a virtual environment doing your lending, testing out different decisions and seeing, for example, if I make this decision, what's going to happen 2 years from now? And you get to see that instantaneously. And in numerical simulation, there are trillions of possible outcomes. You have all these different decisions interacting with each other. There's not just one cause and effect in a lending portfolio, right? It's more complicated. So sometimes we just isolate one decision and see what that's going to do. And other times, we want to change a couple of things at once and see what the net impact is going to be after a couple of years. Now, having said that, in the financial sector, Kevin, it's not commonplace right now, but in other industries, this has been the norm for a long time. For example, when surgeons are going to test out a new methodology, or, there's a new knee replacement that they're going to test out, they do it in a simulated surgical environment first. Of course, pilots, you would not get in an airplane a pilot hadn't practiced in a simulator, for example, right? So it is relatively new for the financial sector. And if you look at some of the work Microsoft is doing, they do work in many verticals with a digital twin concept in manufacturing, which are many of your clients. I mean, your manufacturing clients gave us feedback saying, well, of course you have to simulate first. We simulate everything. We don't start cutting expensive precious metals until we simulate it first. So yes, it's new for the financial sector, but it's not new elsewhere.
excellent. So how does the toolkit work?
Yeah, so the toolkit is pretty simple, actually. So let's say you're a TurnKey Lender client and you go into the platform like, oh, look at these APIs. We want to switch them on. What should we do with this data? So, for example, it might be new transaction data, such as from MX or one of your other, open banking partners. What do? Simple. We just get the key stakeholders. We can do workshops over a workshop in a day over Zoom or WebEx or whatever. And we just put people in the simulation. We set up the scenario and we say, let's do an A/B test. Why don't you try this, try that? And we facilitate it. So we help people kind of through that and provide, this sort of canned simulated environment for them to test out things. But at the end of the workshop, really the goal is that they walk away with a blueprint. So for those of you who do know BankersLab, for many years we've used the simulation for the purpose of training. So people walk away with knowledge and understanding. In this use case, they're going to walk away with a blueprint. So for example, well, if we use the data this way, we can reduce our customer attrition, but we're going to have to change around our pricing model a little bit to achieve that. Now we know how to go back into the TurnKey Lender platform and both adjust those parameters or those settings in your platform, but also set up their next A/B test. So in lending, there isn't one right answer. You're constantly A/B testing. So they'll walk away with that A/B test and they'll walk away with the blueprint for their business plan. Another great example is kind of the proliferation of alternative data scores that we're seeing. So we see alternative data from all these different sources, and whether that score is going to be used for marketing or underwriting or account management or collections, you can go into the simulation environment and figure out, should we do this or that? And many of those discussions you have where people are just speculating, let's make a data-driven decision. So how is this going to affect our cumulative net income? How is it going to affect customer satisfaction? So then we can have that discussion and then walk away critically with a blueprint about how to use that new tool. Other great examples are buy now, pay later. We have incumbent banks trying to jump into that sector. Let's test a little bit first. Let's understand the differences between the P&L outcomes, and let's try some different parameters and see how that portfolio might shake out after a year or two. And another one is, we do kind of fire drills, if you will. We always practice fire drills in stress environments, right?
Have to do that. Yep.
Right, I have a fire drill. And a fire drill is, okay, so we think this is what we're going to do, but hey, Michelle, let's run another scenario where our customers are now under stress, which is sadly a common theme globally. So now we can kind of see, well, what parameters should we be changing to make sure that we are mitigating risk? How much do we really need to trim back on lending, yet maintain our top line, et cetera? So you have this range of exercises you can run through, both for business planning as well as these fire drills.
Absolutely. It's, it's helping provide continuous reliability in an environment or a solution that has been deployed, right?
That's right. Yeah, and I think a great example is a client of ours was an incumbent bank, Kevin, and they did traditional small business lending. So, they sat at the desk and they talked to the guy and then they launched digital lending for small business. Well, what they quickly realized is how different that was. Their digital marketing wasn't attracting the right small businesses that qualified for their credit criteria. So we ran through these simulation exercises with them, and they walked away with business plans. They were seasoned lenders, but the digital lending space was different for them. So it wasn't necessarily about using specifically a new tool per se. It was just a different lending business model that their team really needed to think through. And the simulation really helped them think through it and walk away with that blueprint.
And just to confirm, this is not limited to just one business vertical, correct? You're offering?
That's right. It's not just for incumbent lenders. Certainly we love to see incumbent lenders accelerate their adoption of fintech, and that's always been a sweet spot for us and probably near and dear to our hearts as former bankers ourselves at BankersLab. But really, the verticals that can benefit are fintech lenders, community banks, small business lenders, credit unions, and also, for example, your clients who are manufacturers who are newer to lending or trying to upskill themselves and test out new tools and superpowers that they now have when they implement a platform like yours, right? Because we're a manufacturer and we're going to finance our goods directly to our customers, and now we have all these superpowers. But there's a lot of stuff that goes with that superpower that you need to hone in if you're going to use that.
Absolutely. So what's the format of delivery for the toolkit?
The format's so simple. It's, a group session on Zoom. Hopefully we can travel soon, so we could do them in person, but, these are short bursts where, it's, in Zoom or WebEx or whatever, small team of stakeholders with our coach or coaches, where we set up the simulation scenario, they play through it, we coach them, we look at the results, we do another iteration, and then we basically workshop out with them, with the coaches, the outcome. And then there are self-serve materials, both through the simulation or separately, just in terms of, kind of those walk-away materials of, how do you use this stuff, the educational materials that they might need later, aside from the blueprint. So it's a very simple format. And, I think one thing, if we have an ask for the audience who's on here today, is we're looking for more feedback on the most effective formats, because, we have typically, we always started in physical workshops. We use the sim, and now we, have had multi-day interventions. But, should they be shorter bursts? Should they be quarterly iterations where you do something and then a quarter later you come back and look at the results of your blueprint and then do it again? So is it a day each quarter? How much self-serve stuff do you guys want? So we'd love to hear feedback about those formats as we continue to work with people.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle. This has been incredibly informative. While we reference the audience, let's turn to them and see if there's any questions for Michelle. Thank
you, Kevin. My question for the audience is, what is your superpower and how are you going to use it?
That's right. Because at the end of the day, the clients are our best critic, right? And if we're not listening to their challenges and being able to address them, we're failing in our job, right? That's something I've always lived by. And as a partner, you're my client, right? So I am constantly asking for feedback on how we can provide better service to BankersLab. So if there are no questions, Michelle, this has been absolutely terrific. The way I see it, BankersLab is helping companies grow their business by testing the appropriate solutions and setting the right expectations for growth. You're certainly ahead of the curve in the short time that we've known each other for a little over 2 years now. That is plain to see. Even now, from when I first met you to now, there is a level of consistency there that people can certainly rely on. Speaking from my own experiences and working in Wall Street, BankersLab needs to be a critical piece of any company's future. So thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to having our next call, which is, coming up in another week or so.
My pleasure. And we look forward to hearing from everybody. Let us know what superpower you want to learn how to use better, or you want to integrate, and we'll get in the sim, we'll play, and we'll make sure you use that jetpack safely, guys.
Awesome. Michelle, thanks again so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Kevin.